This is a Film Stories original podcast.
Mother's Day is almost here, and you can get her the most beautiful time-tested gift around. A watch she can wear every day from Movement. Whether your mom is into classic dress watches, rare and refined ceramics, or tried-and-true bestsellers, Movement has something she'll love. And right now, everything at Movement is up to 50% off site-wide during their Mother's Day sale. A watch is a gift that celebrates all the time you spent with mom. And a Movement watch is even more than that. Movement uses industry-leading materials for their fresh modern watch designs, from technically complex ceramics to vintage-inspired style. All for an incredible value your wrist and wallet will both love. And with one-size-fits-all convenience and fast free shipping and returns, it's a stress-free shopping experience. Save big on the best Mother's Day gift ever with Movement. Get up to 50% off site-wide during their Mother's Day sale at mvmt.com. Again, that's up to 50% off at mvmt.com.
Hello there, this is Larry Musser, and I, amongst other things, played Police Chief Jack Bonsand on a Stephen King-written episode of X-Files called Chinga. And you're listening to this amazing X-Cast podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to the X-Cast. The truth is in here. I'm your host, as ever, Tony Black, and this is our Season 10 coverage of a brand new episode. We're talking about Mulder and Scully meet the Weremonster. And I'm delighted to be joined for our first bit of coverage on this episode, again, by Mr. Andrew Brooker.
Hello.
This is a good one to come on for, Andrew, I gotta say.
Isn't it just? I feel that I need to, like, from here on in, need to be called the Harry Watson of Wanna Wanna. I
Definitely.
I've never laughed so much. What a great episode.
This, of course, is Darren Morgan's just much vaunted return to the show for a comedy episode right in the middle of the run. And it's just, I mean, it's interesting. I was reading an article where there was somebody moaning about the fact that they've done a comedy episode when there's only 6 episodes of The X-Files, but I think that person isn't a real fan, because the simple truth is, and we will talk more about Darren Morgan in a bit, but if you're an X-Files fan, the idea of having a Darren Morgan comedy is just the best news in the world ever.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. You have to think that, you've got your 6-episode event, you've got a couple of mythology episodes, you've got the Home Again that's coming up as well, and then you got one of the comedy episodes too. Oh no, hell no! I was well happy for this.
Yeah, it's joyous because Darren Morgan is a king, in terms of writing for the X-Files. So it's just brilliant that we've got this. Quite a few people are happy as well on Twitter. We have a little bit of feedback from Mariette, who at Mate MAYTE 3X, who when asked about the show, replied that if we not count the sex scene, the episode was excellent. I enjoyed it so much, even if we want more Mulder and Scully.
I'm not sure I agree about the sex scene. I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Well, me too. I think it could have perhaps be seen as a little bit too far for some people's tastes. I can understand why they might have thought that was a little bit of a gag too far. You could have probably got away with Scully just very sexily going into that little room and then Guy Man hastily running after her, and you'd have got the idea. But I did think it was a little extra punch.
I think what worked well was that scene, and then when it flashes back to him doing his explanation, he's doing the moves anyway.
Yeah.
That comedy, that joke wouldn't have worked without it.
No, I think that's true.
And there was that moment when you first watched it, that kind of awkward giggling, like you just suddenly turned on Basic Instinct when your mum turned on. It was very funny.
Definitely. In general then, before we get to talking about Mulder and Scully, which is going to be our focus for our first look at this episode, what did you think of Mulder and Scully Meet the Weremonster? Is this the best one yet?
Yes, easily the best one yet.
Mm.
Like we said, it's brilliantly funny. It's really self-aware. It doesn't waste the you have an hour out of 6 hours for this season, and it's not wasted at all. easily the best one so far.
Yeah, I think it's just, but almost by sheer virtue of it being Darren Morgan for a start, makes it just a bit special. But also, I mean, I've loved all of them so far. I've really enjoyed them, and they're all very different kind of episodes, really. But this one, there's just something about the way Darren Morgan writes. And again, as I say, we will get to this later on. But there is something about the way he does this there's just something else. And I think it's just hard to quantify, but it just makes the whole thing just joy forever.
You sit and watch it though, don't you? And you know full well that every single person in that writer's room has just been pissing themselves.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we've got to do that as well. Yeah, we've got to do that. Yeah. That'd be brilliant. Yeah, it just, the whole thing is just such a fantastic episode.
The key thing as well is that, and this is where we get talking about Mulder and Scully specifically, because the key thing is that even though it's a Darren Morgan funny episode, the key thing with this is that there's actually a story arc, especially for Mulder, throughout this episode, that does play into the overall idea of the 6 episodes. Now, if we'd have come back with a 20-episode season, I think Darren Morgan's comedy would have been much more throwaway, in a wonderful way, but it wouldn't have tied in specifically to character arcs, because it never really did.
No.
Because it was much more, like you say, self-aware, and it was parody without being, spoof. But in this case, it actually does have some links to the overall story, and specifically in Mulder's faith in what he's doing. And I thought that was brilliant, and I didn't expect that either.
No, I didn't either. I thought it was superbly done, and it's, like you say, because you haven't got very long, and you've got to explain why this guy is, the guy we've had so much faith in for God knows how many years. He's come back a cynic, and that first scene with him in his office, going through the photos of things that have been explained that he spent years trying to come up with fantastical ideas for. It's a lovely scene where you kind of go, okay, yeah, I feel your pain, Mulder, I do. Because we all wanted to believe it as well. Yeah.
The first time we see Mulder is the point, isn't it, where he's looking. What was it you said at the beginning? The
Harry Watson of Walla Walla. I love it.
Harry Watson of Walla Walla.
I spat drink laughing. I couldn't believe that came out of his mouth. It was so funny.
But this is it. This is what he can do, Darren Morgan. He can just throw those things out there. And I think what Mulder actually, what he's going through in this is very real, in that he would look at all this stuff and he would have that maturity now to actually look back and go, yeah, what was I doing with all this nonsense? This National Enquirer kind of tabloid rubbish. Although obviously, as we know, quite often it was valid. Quite often he would find these things that were insane. And so it's a bit of a shame that he's having this crisis of faith, but it totally fits in terms of the arc throughout the episode of what he goes through, which is ultimately in that his faith is rewarded, and that's the beauty of it. By the end, when he says, I still want to believe, and then he gets the moment where Guy Man transforms in front of him and then just runs off, he's beautiful, because it's like, well, that's your proof there. That's your reason to keep going, because there is more out there than you can explain.
It is that, though, isn't it? It's very much, we all do want to believe, and just to have that little bit of proof that he was shaking his hand when it happened, it doesn't get more real than that.
Yeah.
It was right in front of him. He was touching him when it happened. Clearly, there are still monsters, and we still need Mulder to solve them for us.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, there is still the need for him to be there and to be looking for this stuff.
And it validates him nicely.
Yeah, it really does, and it's a lovely little overall arc for the episode. Scully probably gets a bit less to do, really, in this one. She doesn't necessarily take a back seat, although there is a chunk of time in the middle where you don't really see much of her, when Mulder and Guy's telling him the backstory of how he got to be where he is. Yeah. But that's not to the detriment of the story. Scully's function is to very much be like of old, Mulder's psychic, and she says at one point, doesn't she, I forgot how much fun this could be. Which I thought was nice as well, when she goes, yeah, this was great back in the day when we used to do this. And it's the whole thing of, she's saying that, but we're saying that as well. It's very much, yeah, we forgot how much fun this was, just seeing these two do their thing.
I think this is what I mean when I say it's so self-aware, because they, when they're writing this episode, they clearly know that they've put so much effort into making it funny, but still make it feel like the X-Files. We're all sitting there going, yeah, we remember when it was that much fun too. What happened to TV?
Yeah, exactly. When did it get so serious?
Yeah.
But obviously, the fact it's a comedy allows for... One of the things that Darren Morgan did brilliantly, with Mulder especially, was being able to play into David Duchovny's natural gift for comedy, because it's one thing that... And we will get to this on the X-Cast, because when we get to Darren Morgan's episodes, you know, there's a hell of a lot of brilliant comedy from Duchovny. And he's always had a leaning towards the comic, as he then when later on, when proved with Californication and various other things.
I was just going to say that. He's kind of got that voice for it, hasn't he? When he does his little comedic monologues and things like Californication, the dude is just perfect.
Yeah, he's got that laconic, dry delivery and that approach, which just fits certain types of comedy. And whenever Darren Morgan wrote Mulder, he was able to tap into that brilliantly, and he does that so well here. There's a few great moments, Chief, for this. The bit where Mulder's doing the monologue to Scully, and when he's going, yeah, I know what you're going to say, because you're going to think I'm doing this, but hang on a minute, because and she's just there going, okay.
Rolling her eyes, and yeah.
And then what did she say? She says, I think you're full of butt crap.
I think you're back crap crazy.
Yeah, that's it. You're back crap crazy. What are you talking about? But it's just you can just see them reading that and going, "Oh, this is brilliant." Just Mulder being able to do that self-analyzation based on their years of knowing each other and how they work.
Oh, it's a lovely moment between the pair of them though, as well, isn't it? You know, separate from everything else, just those two together. Like, yeah, this is the two people we've spent years watching on the TV.
Yeah,
you know, it's a lovely little moment for the audience to go, yeah, they're there. They never left. They're back, and this is the people we used to love watching on TV. The actual proper partnership that they know each other that well.
But he also allows for them to, again, like Founders Mutation did a little bit, but this is much more of a comedic way. It updates them into the present, chiefly with Mulder and his camera phone, which was brilliant, because you could totally imagine him running around with a camera phone trying to capture these things on film. And
that was brilliant. Just watching him spaz out with his camera. Like watching your dad trying to use his iPhone. Fucking brilliant.
It really was, wasn't it? Yeah. He's scared. How do I do this? And when he's there talking to I think it's Kumail Nanjiani, isn't he? When he's going, how do I get the settings right on this thing? And he's and the creature's running up behind him.
He just screams into the lens.
Yeah. And then later on, when he's playing it back, and all he can see is his face going, ah.
And he's Mulder going all Blair Witch on his phone. I thought it was brilliant.
It's just great. It's just so funny. But it's true, because it plays on the idea that, back in the day, they had mobile phones, but they had the big cord things that nobody else used, and it was quite glamorous back in the day then. But then, by the time that smartphones started to come out, the X-Files had long been off air.
Brilliant, actually. And when they first go into the woods and they say, they didn't get a picture of it, even though everybody now's got a camera on them. Because we said this, didn't we?
Yeah.
On when we were talking season 1 episodes, it couldn't work now because everybody's got a camera on them.
Everyone's got a camera. So it allows them to play up that. Where Founders Mutation played up the fact that they're still a bit old school, this is having fun with them having to adapt to new stuff.
Literally like unfreezing them in the current century.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. And it's a perfect vehicle to be able to do that as well. The other thing that Darren Morgan always did well was playing up Scully's complete bemusement and piss-taking of Mulder, which he did wonderfully quite often, but also, the quite sort of sadness and lamentation in it, and the sexiness, and you get a bit of that in both. I loved it when she mentioned Queequeg.
Oh, yeah.
And she went, oh, that dog reminds me of Queequeg, and then she just takes the dog and goes, you're coming with me.
He wrote the Queequeg episodes, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. When he wrote one of them. He wrote the 2 episodes where Queequeg came into it in Clyde Bruckman's Final Repose.
Yeah,
because Scully gets the dog from the woman in Clyde Bruckman's building who dies, and then you see Queequeg a lot in War of the Coffrages, where Mulder's out doing mad stuff, and Scully's basically trying to catch the dog and bathe the dog in her apartment when he's constantly calling her up. But then,
yeah.
The episode where Queequeg dies, which is Quagmire, you don't see... That isn't written by Darren Morgan, I don't think.
No.
But that does feature the Stoner Kids. I'm pretty sure it does as well. That features the Stoner Kids who are in War of the Coffrages and, of course, are in this.
Yeah.
So there's lots of little things, but I did love that. I did, because it's a bit like, oh, I miss having a dog. But then, yeah, like I say, there's the sexiness angle, and the whole fantasy thing with Guy is just brilliant. Where she comes in and she's like, oh, you can help me buy a phone and all.
Yeah, I want to help you say cheese.
Oh, it's great.
It's not sexy talk. It's just not.
No, but she looks sexy, but it's not sexy talk. It's just hilarious. Like I say, she's a little bit more background than Mulder, because it is more about him and what he learns through Guy and everything like that. But it does have that brilliant moment where at the end, when Kumail Nanjiani is unveiled as the bad guy, and then he starts doing this speech, and she goes, "Yeah, save it for the trial."
And Mulder in that scene he just rolls his eyes. I've just heard one of these. Stop it.
I don't want to hear another one, for God's sake. It's just, they are just so good in this, because you remember how good they were with the comedy.
Yeah. David
and Gillian, and it still works even now, which I think is the biggest shock, really, in that it's still as funny, and this, because let's be honest, this could have been a real car crash.
Oh, it could have been. It could have been a complete disaster.
The magic might have gone.
Yeah, I mean, any of the episodes so far could have been a disaster. If they didn't bring the mythology back properly, that could have been awful. If they hadn't have done, the good half mythology, half monster of the week thing that they did with Founder's Mutation, that could have been complete bollocks. And this one falls into that category as well. If they're keeping their comedy back in the mid-90s when they started writing the comedy episodes, it could have been terrible.
Yeah,
it could have been 45 minutes of us sitting watching the screen going, the fuck are you on about?
Yeah.
Please make it stop. But no, it was so well done.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the beauty, that's why. And the thing is, I don't know about you, I didn't go into this episode expecting that, though. I didn't go into this episode expecting, this isn't going to be as good as the old days. I genuinely went in thinking, this is Darren Morgan, and he's never let you down, ever. And I don't see why that would happen again. And it was great to be proven right,
I think I kind of went in with a similar attitude. After the first couple of episodes, I've gone, they clearly know what they're doing. They've clearly gone, we've got 6 episodes. Each one of these needs to be right. We don't have room for 3 or 4 throwaway episodes like we did with previous seasons.
Yeah.
Each one has to be, gold.
Yeah.
And so far it has been.
Yeah.
So far I don't have really any complaints at all. And I think, to know that there's a Darren Morgan episode coming and for it to be that good, absolutely, I was well chuffed, and I was glad that it was as good as I thought it was going to be.
It was brilliant, and Mulder and Scully are just fabulous all the way through, and just brilliantly funny. It's just great that they get that, and like I say, Mulder gets that little arc, and it's all just a nice ending as well. It just ends in a nice way, especially for Mulder.
It's good to have a nice episode as well, though. After the way Founder's Mutation ended, which really was a bit of a gut punch.
Yeah.
At the end of the episode, it was nice to have just a nice episode where it's a happy ending all the way through.
Pretty much, yeah. There is obviously some people who die in it, but like all the Darren Morgans, it is a bit more mad and throwaway. And
what's interesting though is all the people that die, you don't really see them die. They're not characters you've met.
That's true.
They're not characters you care about. They're there as dead bodies.
Yeah. As it's proven later, yeah.
It's got, obviously, people have to, if you don't have people dying, you can't have an episode called The Weir Monster. It's not going to work. But to keep the comedy, to keep the levity of the episode, they're not putting anybody you care about in danger. They're just throwing a few bodies around for you.
And it doesn't detract from the episode at all, and it's all about the fact that it punches up the comedy at every angle, and you can tell how much fun they're all having making it, which is the other beauty of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll be back in the next episode to talk a little bit more about Darren Morgan and all the Easter eggs in this episode, because there are so many, and it's just going to be great to unpick those. So Andrew, you'll be back for that.
I will. I can't wait.
Yeah, it'll be good. So keep sending us in your thoughts on Mulder and Scully Meet the Weir Monster, and any other episodes that you've seen of the new revival, and we'll try and get them on the show. So hopefully to hear a bit more of your thoughts, and we'll be back next time. But remember, as ever, trust no one.
Hey guys, time to get in on the action for the biggest moments in basketball with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projections, place your entry, and win up to 100 times your money. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit of up to $100. Just download the Prize Picks app and use the code GET100. That's code GET100 on Prize Picks for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more. Pick less. It's that easy.